Welcome back to Burning Questions. It's a podcast from 500 Degrees. 500 Degrees is a marketing services firm that specializes in digital content. We work with the iconic brands in the QSR industry, Burger King, Tim Hortons, Popeyes, Firehouse Subs, and we handle all their digital transformation. So they've went from a print on-premise experience to digital, and we're going to get into that in a minute. We also work in the convenience store industry and now the automotive dealer industry, which is totally digitally transforming themselves. So we're excited about that. If you want to learn more about 500 Degrees, go to weare500degrees.com and see what we do. So we have two special guests today. We have Beth Warren, Senior Vice President, Brand Strategy, Creative Realities. You also have a lot of big agency experience, DDB, Y&R, but also a brand ambassador or a board member or both for the Digital Signage Federation. And I think you're at a conference today in Tampa?
That is indeed correct. I'm in Tampa right now. We have Digital Signage Federation Mix and Mingle and board meeting, which we do quarterly. And so that's why I'm here.
That's great. Well,
but I'm happy to join. Thank you for having us.
Welcome, Beth. And Amanda Starr, you're the Vice President of Content at Creative Realities. And I had a question for you up front. How do I become a member of the Digital Signage Federation? Because we rip a lot of content onto like 30,000 screens around the globe, and we're not even a member. How do we do that?
It's a super easy method. You just have to register online, digitalsignagefederation.org.
Got it.
And you can become a member. And if you're already heavily embedded in the digital signage or digital experience space, you can become a sponsor. Well, so we are always looking to be able to present thought leadership and showcase and be able to give recognition to the folks who are really raising the bar and making a difference in the industry and the space.
So again, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us in the middle of your workload. A couple of things I wanted to start out with, and just for the audience that we've got, which is hyper-focused on digital signage and digital transformation, particularly on premise. But, we've seen this transition from traditional print, paste the walls, to screens, to how do we use the screens. And now it is anybody that's got 500 million impressions from people walking in, eyeballs walking into their retail environment, are now considering it a media platform. And I know you guys have some experience working that with particularly some of your products and services that you guys offer. Yep. Could you walk our audience through how do you turn your retail premise experience into a media opportunity and go from there?
The beginning of the journey is the most important, especially as we're planning for digital integration and transformation, to use your term. We love that word because we really are taking a space and blending the physical and the digital and transforming it so it is intelligent, responsive, and aware. And we have tools and techniques and products and services that allow us to do that from end to end, from start to finish, from design thinking all the way through to installation and what we call after installation or day 2 support. But what's really striking us and commanding our attention these days is this notion of retail media networks. And for retail specifically, it is the art and the science of blending programmatic advertising and very important educational, inspirational, whatever kind of content that would be specific to the audience at whatever stage journey they are, as they progress from the entrance all the way through to the cash wrap and back. And so our practice is to really unpack that and to be able to advise our clients on what's the right digital aperture married to the right content message at the right place in the journey, and then how do we measure it? And attribution is a really important part of what we do because it's what informs how the software works and how clients charge for it. And so I'm going to pass it to Amanda to give us additional context and color on the role
the big question,
and how our software works to be able to bring it to life. Because Gone are the days of expecting the store staff to be able to manage screens and be able to create a connected ecosystem and manage that, or to be able to operate the coming together of a mobile application and a digital experience
Right.
for
That
us.
was sort of a great lead in for me, right, Beth? Is the first thing we need to do is understand what they want to do, from a retail perspective. But then where we come in and really, guide them is, okay, now we know what you want to do. Let's make sure the content and the software work together seamlessly to make the journey perfect, right? And it needs to react, it needs to be smart. It needs to make sure that, we're pulling down stale content and keeping it fresh and fun and, speaking to the person who's in the journey. We talk a lot about making sure that it's different when you're in the store or you're in the restaurant, you're in that place, than what led you to get into the space to begin with, right? So really making sure that all of that comes together seamlessly, and that person whose job is to sell a t-shirt or sell a delicious cheeseburger isn't thinking about it. They're just part of the really amazing experience for the client.
When you think about the generational jumps in technology, so when people make a software investment or even screens to a certain degree, whether or not it's an onboard media player or it's fed through Wi-Fi or through a pipe, um, how do you
Right.
guys handle the catch up? I mean, in terms of when you do an audit and you come into a new client and you see, all right, this is what you're built for, and this is what we can do for you.
Right.
How do you manage up in terms of getting into larger operational or capex budgets to, like, if you really want this to work, you're going to have to order another 3,000 screens.
A lot of what we spend time doing is talking about future proofing, right? Like you're about to make this
Good
really
point.
big investment, right? And so let's make sure that it solves an operational problem you have today. But then we're also thinking about the future. We don't want you to buy several thousand screens and then be like, okay, next year when that new thing comes, you have to do it again and then again and then again, right? So we're constantly talking about a crawl, walk, run. In the crawl, let's make sure we get that hardware investment, but we're thinking about the run and what we really want to do in the run. C-store is a great example. We want people to go from outside to inside and then have this really amazing journey inside. And we want the audio to match up and the coffee pour to happen when they're, fixing their coffee. That's future state. So let's make sure that what we're buying today is setting us up for like that really sexy, amazing future state. So we spend a lot of time advising through that and making sure that we're a really good partner.
The network infrastructure side of this
Mm.
underpins everything that we layer on site. So I can't overstate the importance of having a network that really functions well so that we can connect into it. And so the partners, for example, Freddy's is a client of ours who we do lots and lots of work for, handle all of their digital menu boards and so much more. They've made it a point to invest in, for all of their locations, in the infrastructure that will help them to continue to progress technology. So as tech improves, um, they don't have to go back and then fix or remediate or build or change their infrastructure. They can have that keep pace with the technology, and that's really important. And then as far as our software is concerned, content management software is something that needs to be flexible. And so we focus on ensuring that the product that we produce is flexible enough and is open architecture enough to be able to hook other data sources and feeds, whether it's point of sale or Instagram, to be able to deliver not only creativity for the commercial purpose, but to allow the store product to evolve.
I
Yeah.
heard recently at when I was out in Las Vegas at another show that the when it comes to the screens and the updates in terms of technology and all of the new things that are happening, there was a guy at Samsung, I think it was the Samsung booth, and he was saying, "Look, we're
Sure.
signing more people up for screen subscriptions and not wholesale, buy 1,000, and then reboot them in 3 years. And I thought that was
Yeah.
fascinating. Of like, it's probably more
It's a
expensive,
trend. It's
but it's like you're going to get a refresh screen every year.
well, they've figured out that selling just screens is a
Mm.
low margin business, and so selling software and service, which is the business that we're in, is supportable and it's sustainable. And whenever you hook into a client and are able to take managed services and work it to their advantage, that's such a tremendous help. And so, as an integrator or as a solutions company, that's in our DNA. And so, we rely on Samsung to make great product, and we make great software that connects to their great product. And then we're able to make sure that that product can stand this, or that experience can stand the test of time. If something fails in the field, it's rarely
Mm.
invited
That's for
back.
sure, particularly
So the
franchisees.
importance of getting it right, the importance of getting it right is it's a matter of your cash wrap. It's a matter of your cash register. That's how you have to think about it in terms of currency.
Amanda, on the content side, who's somebody that you've walked by and go, they're really doing it well.
That's a big question because there's people who are doing it well in every industry, right? Every vertical. Um, I happen to be a Lululemon fan. I think they're doing a phenomenal job of digital signage today. Really, really, connecting with their brand, connecting with their person. Even checking out the other day, I was like, oh my gosh, they just drove me to go buy something else while I was checking out. I mean, they're doing a phenomenal job. And QSR, Taco Bell, killing it.
Yep.
I mean, just think about their LTOs and their cult following. It's huge. I mean, they're doing a phenomenal job in sort of their new age stores and having people come in and even just drive in. They're getting people into the drive through, and that cult following is posting about it on social and showing the pictures. They're doing a phenomenal job. We have a client, we have Panera and Freddy's both as clients that are doing really cool things. Panera is listening to their customer and changing their menu
They just did a
for their
complete
customer.
reset.
Yes. And that was all customer feedback. That was all the customer saying, I'm overwhelmed. You're kind of pricey. You've got good quality, but I need you to change the experience. And Panera said, okay, let's do that. So they're doing a phenomenal job of reacting to what the industry is telling them to do.
Yeah,
And I'll shout out to Freddy's because Freddy's is testing like nobody else. That's a big thing in the industry. Why not use your digital signage to react and test?
mm-hmm.
And so they're testing new concepts, new LTOs, and then doing that before they deploy. I mean, every week they're coming to us with a new one, and I think it's brilliant. Why not?
Do you guys do a lot of on-premise sort of discovery research, observational research, time and motion research with your customers?
We partner with them, right? We want to do that with them and then talk them through it. Like sometimes it's just, I got 100 spreadsheets and I don't understand what it means. And so we go on premise with them. We deal with that together and then we talk through what it really means and what's tangible, what we can do today and what we should do in the future. I think Freddy's is a great example for us. We're on our 5th iteration of partnership with them.
When we talk about the connectivity of all these systems, we've got the ecosystem of on-premise and the app and web experience that's driving traffic, let's call it to the QSR industry. The other side of it is also point of sale technology that is, for the $10, $15, $20 an hour person associate behind the glass. They're getting cross-selling messages coming up on the screen. So if somebody comes in for an individual $1.99 stack of nuggets, there are cross-selling messages, bundling messages that are coming up. Have you guys started working on the connectivity between POS and what is being served into your systems?
Yes. And it's the future. It's the future. Yeah, it is the future of QSR and digital, right? It's making sure that we're learning and we're making sure that when that person orders the bagel, we immediately offer the cream cheese. When they order the combo, we immediately go towards the custard. When the weather is hot, we're pushing the iced coffee, right? And it's a constant reaction. All of that is coming in via AI, via the point of sale data. Even think about expiration times for hot foods.
Mm.
So all of that's coming through the point of sale and making sure we're saying, hey, this expires in 10 minutes. Let's do 50% discount and try to push it. And then the ad reacts, the person at the cash wrap reacts, and it's like a full experience inside the store to make sure that we're not having food waste, right? We're getting those products out the door.
Even before someone comes to the drive-through, we can talk with them or present something that's desirable as part of the pre-order experience. So curating the must-haves, the best sellers, according to day part, time of day, um, and be able to really help people make decisions when they're in motion. That's something that we take very seriously. And, we arm ourselves with the physical journey experience in knowing that in all the different combinations, permutations, and iterations that will help us be able to anticipate a guest's need and be able to get the right thing in front of them. So those are important trends that are right here and right now that we're able
What
to
does
impact.
the Digital Signage Federation consider? What's hot right now in terms of the top 5 trends that we need to pay attention to?
Direct view LED everywhere. So instead of LCD screens, LED is super hot. Anonymous analytics, being able to understand
Mm.
who is in front of the screen. Not creepy, aggregate, of course, but that helps inform what content should be triggered and served up. Really important. Immersive experiences. So this is in response to a continued demand for environments, going out and experiencing. And, during the pandemic, we were pent up for quite a long time. And I think everyone enjoys online shopping, but it's linear. And so people crave those nonlinear, impulsive discovery moments. And so, how do you bring digital signage to deliver that wow factor and also be able to, beyond just serving up, you know, goods and merchandise and visual merchandise, but how do you make that really special? So those are I think the top three that we hear time and time again, and being able to bring digital solutions to um, verticals that you know aren't traditionally sexy. So how does a bank become better? Food wasn't all that sexy. The sexy part of food is the actual, the menu item, right? But now it's so cool. I love going to Chipotle and driving through the lane and not having to even deal with a menu board because it knows my order, because they've removed the drive-through. Oh my God, that is so clever. No, I'm just coming in. I can get my food immediately. I don't have to wait. So making things more experiential without having friction and allowing people to have something that's memorable and artistic is what we hope to inform and impact in the Digital Signage Federation anyway, and what many of us are practicing. So
I just wanted to add to that, Beth, is not just the experience, but a personal experience. So, and that's what we're seeing from younger generations is I'm going to get up off the couch, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to do something, but I want it to feel personal and special for me, and making sure that everyone in that space is having a personal journey. That's difficult when there's 50 people in the store, right? Or 50 people sitting there. How are you making sure each one of them feels like you're speaking to them individually? It's a huge hurdle people are having to cross, but it's what younger consumers are demanding.
yeah, personalization would probably be the
Yep.
fourth and the fifth if we were to
We
round
had
up that list, because it makes the difference. It makes such a difference to be able to speak to an individual versus the masses, and now we have
Right.
the tools to
we
be
had
able to
Maddie
do that.
Bregman on, who's a leading consultant contractor in the Gen Z business. She is also Gen Z, and yeah,
That helps.
for sure. I'm not a Gen Z
No.
consultant, I'll tell you that. But what was interesting when you consider how they interact with a traditional on-premise experience, it's really not an interaction at all. and it's a head down experience. The interaction experience is basically like the pickup table, tray, whatever it is, or it's the lane that they go for pickup. That's about it. You're basically backing out of the on-premise experience and how we're going to have a full funnel of sell ups and sell forwards to one moment.
It happens in your hand versus being on site, even because of the tendency now for that footprint to shrink and shrink because people are taking their favorite things and they're consuming them on the go. And so that also poses additional pressures on technology to be able to resolve those tension points of wanting to get in and get out.
All retailers, multi-unit retailers, they always go through um, their their rehabs, and the idea that we're going to create a new experience. And of course, since COVID, drive-through has become super important, 80% plus in terms of utility of that versus going into a QSR experience. Um, since everybody is digitally transformed and moving away from print on the windows, the tube dudes, the wind wavers, all of the traditional jewelry associated with how do we, carny bark our customers into the location. Now they seem to be from the exterior denuded of any kind of promotional impact. You guys have great experience in some of those big mega installations, I would call it the Times Square effect. But would you see, with the landlords that or the zoning laws that would approve, perhaps utilizing the exterior of buildings almost as digital out of home?
Well, you just hit a big one. Who's going to allow it, right? So that's a big thing we're hitting is which cities or regions or whatever are actually allowing that to be facing the road. So that's something we're having to work to overcome. And then what's the messaging to catch their eye and get them in? You'd be surprised at what you're actually not allowed to show facing out, or you have to do it in a very discreet way. But Beth, I'll let you speak to the technology. I think it's a great idea, and I think we have clients who are executing on that right now. It's just overcoming some of those operational or the challenges to do it.
The
Yep.
restrictions, the compliance and the zoning restrictions are
Yes.
real. That struggle is real, and that's here to stay. So Simon Properties is going to be very specific when you're in a mall, and Dunkin' Donuts is going to fight for what they would like to do in the front of their store. But each region and each local market has its jurisdiction rules, and so that's real, and that's what we have to overcome. I'm not necessarily convinced that wrapping a building in LED is going to be the way forward. I th- I honestly think being able to use all of your technology tools together as a connected ecosystem from off-site and offline to online and back, that's the way you drive preference, and that's the way you drive not only awareness, but that's the way you get people in. And so we have to be clever about the media vehicles that our target is consuming, and then be heroic about those, making sure that we have the right content that pulls them in. So we love window posters and we love anything techie on the exterior if it's going to be purposeful and if it's going to do the job it should do of presenting really important brand information about why somebody should come in. But that's a secondary lift, not the
Yeah,
I
primary
love Beth's
lift.
answer because it's very agency, right? It's the full, it
Is
was, it's
it?
like, it's the full, marketing, plan is what gets them there. And then we
It
speak to them differently
is.
when we get there. And
When you're there,
yes,
we say this guest mode
consumer
versus
mode.
consumer
Yep.
yeah.
mode, mindset, so that we're hitting them when they're a guest. We're not, our specialty, and it's a practice and it's really a science in addition to an art, is what goes on when you're inside a three-dimensional space. So that's where we live each and every day. So that's what we
I
try
met
to,
with
have our clients
CVS
focus on.
Outdoor, which over the last
Oh, I
over the
love
last 5
them.
years, they've
Yeah.
cobbled together an incredible national digital out of home network. I put it to them. I said, our model is because we want to join, kind of like agency speak, we want to join the traffic driving impetus that drives people on premise or to an order or to a pickup or to um, delivery, whatever the access point is required. And our point of view is 4 miles, 4 blocks, 4 walls. So we can't do anything about the zoning laws on the exterior of our buildings. In fact, a lot of them are just taking down the ability to even put, yard sale signs for a specific new protein or a sale that we're having. But how do you do? And his mind switched on to, oh, I see what you're trying to do. Okay, so what we'll do is I will map out all the digital of out of home that are in the closest proximity to these locations. This is what we're going to feed here. Then we're going to have an attribution model that goes here and see if we can't pick up 3 or 4
And
or five
then
percent.
you do the
Yeah,
correlation. Absolutely, and that's very smart. That's being strategic, and it's also being sustainable and not causing pollution.
that's true.
You know, it's really important. It's really important. And by the way, design is more important than ever, and aesthetic is more
What are
important
the
than
big
ever.
what are the
And
big
so
places that you guys have just wrapped and are feeding outside of, hardcore retail? Have you done tourism experiences or uh, downtown
certainly,
location experiences, and
yep.
how has that worked out? How do you pitch a municipality on the money behind that?
We're not. That's not the business we're in. We're not in municipality or
Yeah.
public spaces. We are where there's a commercial opportunity for scale. And we have 6 verticals that we do that in. It's retail, convenience, QSR, automotive, sort of the
Yes.
dealer ecosystem, stadium and arenas, and point of care. So those are the verticals that we really play in and focus on, because it also allows us to utilize our entire spectrum of managed services. Our software engines are built for those verticals. And, that nets us recurring revenue back to that license or subscription aspect that you were talking about, that Samsung's quite interested in chasing. And so, project work, big immersive project work is fantastic. The one that is my crush right now and probably will be long into the future is um, the Discovery Center
Hmm.
in Dallas, the AT&T Discovery
Is
Center.
that the big giant wall
It
mural
is,
downtown Dallas?
yes, it's the wall mural, which uses
It's
generative AI for
amazing.
content. It is the interior lobby structure, which is all clad in LED and absolutely stunning and constantly changes for the theme, for the season, for whatever reason, for whatever event is happening. And it's all of the other lighting and digital touches that complement that experience. I just think it's just awesome. Really, very, very well done. We know all of those. That's AT&T, that's S&A Displays, and that is
Yeah.
Gensler
Yeah. Cool.
Architects. And so to pull off something like that, you certainly need that ensemble of talent to
Yeah,
be
the
able to do
content
that.
calendar just must be exhausting. It must be like every
Has to
every
be.
3
It has
minutes.
to be. I'm not sure I would want that
Yeah.
job, but that's a good job
I
for
say just
Amanda
like
to
the
have. She'd
Sphere in
crush
Las
it.
Vegas, right? Like, can you imagine having to
Yeah.
to schedule that and think about that all the time?
That
Um,
that's kind of
Wow.
you know, Vegas is always leading. And when you think about the sphere, could you imagine a retail experience that are like mini spheres around? Maybe it's too much. Maybe, you do have to eventually.
Well, if it's single minded and it's purposeful, then it's not too much. When it's bling and disparate
right.
experiences that are happening concurrently, that's when it becomes a little bit some sensory overload. But if it's structured as a journey with a beginning, a middle, and an end in a cohesive storyline narrative, that's when it's absolutely mesmerizing.
What
And Beth,
So,
Go ahead,
sorry, I was
Amanda.
going to say, Puma, right? Puma in New York City does that really well. It is sort of that immersive. Like, you're shopping and you're looking up and just seeing all of these beautiful ideas, and they're streaming. So there are people who are doing it very similar to the Sphere and doing it well. It's just not widespread.
Hmm.
yes. Go to Puma on Fifth
It's so
Avenue in the
cool.
40s in New York City, and it is the best
Yep.
connected experience that an athleisure brand has brought to market.
There are, a lot of big players out in the universe, and I think it's shrinking. That's why I reached out to you guys, because I thought you were a compelling fit for some of the things that we do. But you have LSI, you have Stratacache, you have these big, what I call production switches, which receive and then send. How is that going to shrink with
Yes,
AI or other technologies do you see?
I'm not worried about AI because the one thing that AI is missing is the human logic. And so, AI, from a content standpoint, I'm not as concerned about that because you have to tell a brand story that is head, heart, and gut. And it needs to be done in a certain way that is held to a standard. Okay. I think where we see AI going, and we had a recent chat about this because we also produce a blog, and we just dropped it yesterday on the power of content management software and what are the top trends that you need to know right now in order to really unleash its potential. And AI, we love AI because it helps us with self healing. It helps us structure the back end of the way a software needs to perform and what it needs to do to tell us and to alert us when things aren't happening. Or also allows us to automate,
Mm-hmm.
more quickly, fast,
Yeah, almost like the
you know,
programmatic
in a
space.
better
It
rate,
is.
better. And yes,
Nope, I was going to
ma'am.
say it's exactly that, right? It's going to make it so much smarter and so much easier from a content perspective, from a delivery perspective. It's going to be very we call purpose driven. So instead of speaking to the masses, speaking, to that person and to what that moment is, right? Like this line is too long, go to this line. We're reacting in that moment. So AI is going to help us. Where I think CRI is going to stand out against all of some of those other competitors is service, because AI can't give you service,
Hmm.
right? They can help the content be smart and they can help the delivery be smart, but
But they can't help the
yep, and you
messaging
can't help the
necessarily. I
service
don't
end or
care.
the software end or the personal end that's going to show up and make sure everything works perfectly and is on, right? Is still displaying that content that you really care about.
Do you guys jump different continents? I mean, are you in Canada, Mexico, global? What's your footprint like?
So our footprint is North America, so U.S. and Canada end to end. In fact, we have an office in Windsor as well that was set up to service the Stellantis business or the Fiat Chrysler when it was Fiat Chrysler. We are making our way into Mexico now in the convenience space, so you'll see more of that, or hopefully hear more of that. And I just did a press release yesterday on us taking our software, a version of our software,
Hmm.
to Europe and wrapping a channel program around Europe, Africa, Middle East.
I think you'll do great in
So we're
Europe.
going to be over in Europe.
We were
So,
talking with Paco Underhill, who's one of the top behaviorists in retail,
I love
and
him. He's
he's
amazing.
just killer on a podcast. I mean, he was saying, in Europe and Asia, the level of adoption for technology is not so much a tech experience as it's a ways and mean to um, free up the customer and free us up from operational detail. And he describes certain things that are happening so quickly and faster in adoption overseas, particularly in Europe and Asia, that the U.S. is kind of stalled. There are some players that are absolutely leading in North America, but he said the experiences are vastly different.
They're next level.
I
They
would agree
definitely
with
are.
that. Next,
What
totally. 20 years. I lived in London 20 years ago. Just a small aside, and um, 20 years ago they were taking payment
right,
at
Mhm.
the table.
right. So, kind of interesting. I have a question as we sort of as we burn down to the close here. What do you, each one of you, what are you reading to stay ahead or listening to if it's a podcast? What's on your bedside table, but something that will encourage other people that are listening to this to tap into a new book.
Reading is how we stay current, and it develops our vocabulary for understanding and being able to present what we do with specificity. So the journals that I read that I really, really like are from McKinsey, Deloitte, PSFK, retail touch points. Those are my go-tos because it's not just about the how. They really spend time with the why. And then, living in the world, believe it or not, everything is a laboratory. So I'm out walking the streets. I pay attention to environments. I do what I like to call my digital safaris, which I have branded. Those are very, very helpful at giving us clues to what we think is good and what isn't so good, and we learn from those as
Those
well.
are some of our best
I am
learnings,
in
right, Beth? When Beth and I
our
get
best
into a new
learnings,
city, we
right?
just spend hours walking around
Mm.
or, shooting each other pictures. We learn so much from those immersive moments. It really drives what we do together quite a bit.
How does anybody get in touch with you or see some of the, the software experiences that you have?
It's super easy URL. It's cri.com. And from there, you can experience whatever vertical, whatever solution, whatever your thought leadership or use case preference might be. There's so much great information there, and there's a way to contact us.
Cool. And the Digital Signage Federation too, easy to find.
It's Digital Signage Federation, one word,
Got it.
.org.
All right.
.org. That's the difference. And great stuff there too for you.
Thanks for joining us on Burning Questions, and I'm sure we'll find some time to work together because I think we'd be great partners in the future. But with that, we're
I hope
signing
so.
off, and adios. On the next episode of Burning Questions, so how do you pull off the perfect pitch? How do you close the deal and convince a client you want to bring them on board? Well, I'm sitting down with Brent Hodges, Managing Director at Mirren Business Development.
Let's cut through the hype. Let's put it to work. Here's stuff you can do right now to be using AI at your agency to give you a leg up.
You'll hear all about the pitch pitfalls to avoid and get inside tips on ways to get your team in the game. So coming up on the next Burning Questions, stay tuned.